All right, hello and welcome to the midday news on VOB TV. First, the headlines. And this is a sad one. Former NDDC director and APC chieftain in Delta State, Cairo Ojougboh, dies after watching Nigeria-South Africa AFCON match. And away from that one, court orders the federal government to fix soaring prices of goods, fuel within 7 days. Super Eagles of Nigeria soar past Bafana of South Africa into AFCON final. And all the news in detail. I am Moses Humphrey. A former member of the House of Representatives who represented the Ika Federal Constituency of Delta State from 2003 to 2007, Dr. Cairo Ojougboh is dead. The politician was said to have passed away on Wednesday evening while watching the AFCON semi-finals match between Nigeria and South Africa. A source close to the politician said the incident happened when the penalty was awarded against Nigeria. Dr. Ojougboh was said to have shouted and slumped due to a massive heart attack when South Africa scored. Ojougboh's family is yet to release a statement confirming his passing. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has mourned the passing of Cairo Ojougboh, a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress in Delta State, who reportedly died watching the semi-finals clash between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Bafana of South Africa on Wednesday night. Tinubu, through his special advisor on media and publicity, Ajurin Galali, has condoled with the Ojougboh family, the government, and the people of Delta State over the loss. While praying for the peaceful repose of the departed, President Tinubu comforts his family and urges them to find strength and hope in God Almighty, who presides over the affairs of men, as well as in the cherished memories and legacy of the late APC chieftain. Also, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 general elections, Atiku Abubakar, has expressed his condolences over the passing of Ojougboh. In a post on his verified X account, Atiku wrote, "The sudden passing of my close friend, Dr. Cairo Ojougboh, deeply saddens me. His love for our country was profound. Cairo was a shining example of patriotism. His dedication to Nigeria was unwavering, and his departure is a personal loss that leaves a void in my heart." End quote. As we mourn, let us remember the passion and zeal for Nigeria that defined his life. May his soul rest in peace. End quote. Moving on, the Federal High Court, sitting in Ikoyi, has ordered the President Bola Tinubu-led administration to fix the prices of essential goods and petroleum products within 7 days. The decision comes after human rights lawyer Femi Falana, SAN, filed an originating motion challenging the government's inaction on price control. Justice Ambrose Lewis Alagua, presiding over the case, noted that the absence of any opposition from the Attorney General of the Federation and the Price Control Board, he deemed the facts presented by Falana as admitted and granted all reliefs sought in the motion. In response to rising food prices, the federal government has announced plans to release food items from the National Food Reserves as part of emergency measures to address food scarcity. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, disclosed this following a meeting of the Special Presidential Committee convened by President Tinubu. The initiative aims to mitigate the impact of food shortages on Nigerians by making essential commodities readily available. Idris emphasized the government's commitment to addressing the challenges faced by Nigerians in accessing affordable food items, stating that major millers and commodity traders would be engaged to facilitate the distribution of released food reserves. This intervention underscores the government's proactive approach to ensuring food security and alleviating economic hardship among the populace. Now, from economy to security, the Senate has adjourned the quizzing of service chiefs over rising insecurity in the country to Tuesday next week. The federal lawmakers adjourned the sitting to accommodate others involved in the management of security in the country. The security chiefs were supposed to have addressed lawmakers on the rising insecurity in the country today. The service chiefs present for today's briefing were General Christopher Musa, Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja, Chief of Army Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, and Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, Chief of Naval Staff. Now, they expect others like the Inspector General of Police and Director of the Department of State Security, DSS, and others to be a part of the interaction. The Senate has expressed worry over insecurity, declaring that the nation's seat of power was under threat. Senate President Godswill Akpabio said the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) had been infiltrated, buttressing his point with references to attacks in places like Kubwa, Buari, among others. Akpabio spoke before the Senate adjourned its briefing with heads of security agencies to next week over the absence of National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu and Chief of Defense Staff Christopher Musa. The Red Chamber had last week summoned the security chiefs to brief it on the spate of insecurity in Nigeria and efforts to address the menace. Now, still talking security, armed bandits who abducted women accompanying a newlywed bride to her matrimonial home at Damari, Sabua, LGA of Katsina State have issued threats to remarry the bride and sell off the other women. Well, VOP TV gathered that the audacious bandits carried out the abduction last Thursday, targeting the bride and her companions while traveling in an open van in the Sabua area. Now, during the unfortunate attack, the gunmen killed at least 4 members of a vigilante group. Villagers report that at least 55 wedding guests were abducted during the attack, and they have been held hostage since then. In a video circulating on social media, the bandits were seen threatening to marry the bride and sell the other captives if the ransom was not paid promptly. Well, VOP TV gathered that the assailants had reached out to the families of the victims, demanding 100 million naira as the sole condition for the release of all the captives. In the video clip, a gang leader dressed in police uniform took responsibility for the abduction, asserting that nobody could rescue the women from their captivity. Well, the Nigeria Immigration Service (NIS) says it has rescued 3 victims of human trafficking in Jigawa. The NIS controller in the state, Mr. Samson Agada, who revealed this, said personnel of the service intercepted victims on Tuesday at about 11 a.m. at the Samiya Ilu checkpoint in Kazure local government area of the state. Agada said the victims are indigents of Kogi, and they include Ahmed Ibrahim, 25 years old, Ibrahim Rafatu, who is 17, and Nafisat Jibril, 32, adding that they were apprehended alongside a suspected trafficker, Mustafa Zulkalaini. The controller added that when contacted by the service, the victims' parents gave their consent to the journey based on abject poverty. Agada urged parents and guardians to monitor their wards to protect them against falling prey to traffickers. He reiterated the service commitments to check in irregular migration and human trafficking. Well, you're still watching the VOP Midday News. More stories after this break. Welcome back. Well, the Senate has assured that state population and housing census slated for November this year will hold as scheduled. Speaking yesterday in Abuja during the screening of 17 of the 19 commissioner nominees for the National Population Commission, NPC, the chairman of the Senate Committee on National Identity and Population, Senator Abdul Ningi, PDP, Bauchi Central, noted that coincidentally, most of the nominees are people coming for the second time. Well, it will be recalled that Nigeria has been using estimated figures for many years, as the last census was conducted in 2006 by the National Population Commission, which gave a population figure of 140 million people. The immediate past administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari had planned to conduct another census in 2022, but the program was later moved to 2023. The exercise was, however, suspended indefinitely by Buhari a few days before leaving office, saying he would allow President Bola Tinubu to announce new dates for the headcount. Well, recently, Tinubu pledged his administration's support for the next census, asserting its importance in crucial aspects of national planning. A bill for the amendment of the Electoral Act has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill, which is sponsored by Honorable Francis Waive, proposes that the general elections be conducted on the same day to save money and time for the country, as well as prevent bandwagon effect. The amendment also seeks to make electronic transmission of results compulsory and punish persons who file frivolous petitions with heavy fines to reduce the number of cases that would end up in court. Further, the amendment will cause the electoral umpire to carry out a fresh registration exercise for eligible voters. In other news, the Minister of Works, David Umahi, has said that the federal government is set to collaborate with engineers on road construction. The minister made his observation known when the executives of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, led by the president, Azikiwe Onwalu, paid him a courtesy visit on Wednesday in his office in Abuja. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, represented by the ministry's permanent secretary, Dr. Yakubu Kofamata, lamented the capacity of contractors to deliver quality and durable roads, stating that construction in the country is riddled with malpractices. He added that through the engineering methods, though the engineering methods, I beg your pardon, are not different, the results are not the same. This is a result of some malpractices carried out by the contractors. But the minister therefore pledged to collaborate in the area of road construction and management in the interest of the people. He further pledged to continue to deliver on President Bola Tinubu's mandate by ensuring that all roads are constructed to specifications and are safe. Moving on to Kano State, where the All Progressives Congress has warned against any move to disrupt the current Emirates arrangement as created by Ganduje, saying it might upset the peace of the ancient city. The opposition party advised NNPP Governor Abba Yusuf to be careful so as not to allow himself to be pushed into doing something which could affect the existing peaceful coexistence in the state. A group, Yan Dangwalin Jiha Kanu, the Kanu electorate, had written to the Kanu State House of Assembly seeking the review of the law establishing 4 additional emirates in Gaya, Rano, Karaye, and Bichi by the immediate past administration of former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje. In the letter, also copied to the Kanu State Governor, Kanu State Deputy Governor, and Secretary to the State Government, the group said the dissolution of the Emirates and the Emir of Kanu will foster unity, peace, and stability within Kanu State and its neighboring communities. The call by the group comes on the heels of repeated statements by former Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso that the ruling New Nigeria People's Party in Kano might revisit Gandaje's action on the Kano Emirate. And moving on now to Ibadan, where the special advisor on security to the governor, Oseni, has revealed that 3 persons of interest have been identified in connection with the cause of the January 16, 2024 explosion at Adeyi Avenue, Bodija, Ibadan. Oseni, while speaking at a news conference yesterday, says the identified persons will face prosecution based on the investigation carried out. Oseni also revealed that the character of the explosive is known as water gel type based explosives, and that the explosion was triggered by an electric spark, explaining further that a closed-circuit television in one of the affected houses gave footage of how the incident happened. Earlier, before the news conference, the special advisor presented to the state governor, Seyi Makinde, the official report of the explosion. The report, which comprises findings of the medical, security, and engineering teams, was submitted to the governor on Tuesday at the executive chamber of the governor's office, Secretariat, Agodi, Ibadan. Well, you're still watching the VOP Midday News. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have more stories for you. Well, indications have emerged that lingering regulatory approvals have stalled Dangote Petrochemical Refining plan to release aviation fuel, also called Jet A1, and diesel for sale in the Nigerian market in January. Now, 1 week after the January 31 timeline set by the management of the Africa's largest refinery to begin sale of its petroleum products in the local market, the refinery is still battling to cross the hurdles of the several layers of regulatory approvals. The development came almost a month after the refinery began the production of petroleum products at the expansive facility. On January 12, Dangote Refinery announced that it had commenced the production of automotive gas oil, popularly called diesel, and aviation fuel. The president of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, in a statement issued by his firm at the time, thanked President Bola Tinubu for his support, encouragement, and thoughtful advice towards the actualization of the project. But by Wednesday, February 7, 2024, the plant had yet to pump out diesel nor aviation fuel amid an anxious wait by operators in the downstream sector and Nigerian consumers. But multiple officials of regulatory agencies in the oil and gas sector revealed to journalists on Wednesday that the facility had yet to complete the various stages of its regulatory process. Reports indicate that officials of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, are still assessing the products being produced by the plant before the agency would issue regulatory approvals for the products and then release it into the market. MTN Nigeria and Globalcom have reached a landmark agreement to settle a long-standing dispute over interconnection fees, marking the end of a 15-year contention. As per negotiations, MTN has agreed to accept $2 billion to settle the interest payment instead of the initial demanded $3 billion. Now, this resolution follows the intervention of the Nigerian Communication Commission (NCC) at the behest of Glo, averting the risk of a potential disconnection that could have impacted Glo's 6.5 million subscribers. The agreement underscores a commitment to regulatory compliance and market stability, signaling a new approach under the leadership of the NCC's new executive vice chairman. Now, the Nigerian federal government is eyeing a substantial revenue boost from the oil sector in 2024, with plans to achieve a staggering 214% increase in petroleum profits tax (PPT) collections. Data from the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) reveals an ambitious target of 9.96 trillion naira in PPT revenue, representing an 89% hike over the initial projection for the year. Now, this ambitious goal reflects the government's determination to leverage fiscal reforms introduced through the Petroleum Industry Act (PIA) to maximize revenue generation from the oil and gas sector. While the PIA introduced significant fiscal reforms aimed at addressing challenges posed by falling oil prices and enhancing the profitability of oil and gas operators. Key provisions include the phasing out of the petroleum profit tax (PPT) and the introduction of the hydrocarbon tax, targeting specific segments of the industry. Under the new tax framework, companies engaged in upstream activities will be subject to the company's income tax (CIT) at a standard rate of 30%, with adjustments made to tax rates based on license types and operational sectors. Well, these reforms aim to create a more competitive and sustainable fiscal regime while attracting investment and optimizing revenue generation in the oil and gas sector. In a thrilling semi-final clash at Stade de la Paix on Wednesday night, the Super Eagles, under the astute leadership of head coach Jose Peseiro, secured their spot in the final of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. Nigeria emerged victorious in a hard-fought battle against South Africa, prevailing 4-2 in a penalty shootout after an intense match. The defining moments came in the 63rd minute when William Troost Ekong confidently converted from the penalty spot, granting Nigeria a lead. However, the resilient Bafana Bafana managed to level the score just on the cusp of the 90-minute mark, with Tabeho Mokoena finding the back of the net. Following the nail-biting encounter, Coach Peseiro expressed his admiration for the outstanding performance displayed by his players. In his post-match remarks to reporters, Peseiro commended the team, stating, "The players deserve to be in the finals. It's a very good victory against a formidable team." And acknowledging the challenges posed by the well-organized South African side, Peseiro highlighted, I said it earlier that South Africa has the best of organization because they play together and they create more problems for us. It was very difficult to beat them. Now, looking ahead to the grand finale, the Super Eagles are set to face off against the host nation, Côte d'Ivoire, at the Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Ebimbe, Abidjan on Sunday. The clash promises to be a riveting culmination to the tournament as Nigeria aims to clinch the prestigious Africa Cup of Nations title. In the aftermath of a gripping semi-final clash against Nigeria, South Africa's head coach, Hugo Broos, expressed his belief that his team deserved more from the encounter. Despite succumbing to a 4-2 defeat on penalties against the Super Eagles, addressing the media post-match, Broos acknowledged the harsh realities of football, stating, "Football can be hard when you see the performance of my team today and then there are penalties and you lose the game, not making it to the final. It's hard to accept because we played a very good game today. Reflecting on the match dynamics, Bruce asserted that his team had showcased their superiority in the first half, creating the best chances. He remarked, "I think we were the best team in the first half. We had the best chances. Nigeria didn't have one chance. Nothing." Despite the setback, Bruce pointed out that the tactical adjustment made by his side in the second half, which allowed them to level the score. He lamented missing opportunities, saying, "But then we changed something tactically and we could come back 2 minutes before the end of 90 minutes. We had again 3 chances. So if we could score there, it is us going to the final and not Nigeria," he said. While acknowledging the disappointment of the defeat, Bruce emphasized his pride in the overall performance of his players throughout the Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON. And that's all on the news this hour. But before we go, here is a recap of the top stories. Former NDDC director and APC chieftain in Delta State, Cairo Ojougboh, dies watching Nigeria South Africa AFCON match. Well, court orders the federal government to fix soaring prices of goods, fuel, within 7 days. The Super Eagles of Nigeria soar past Bafana of South Africa to AFCON final. Well, thanks for watching. More news bulletins in subsequent editions. I'm Moses Humphrey. Have a good afternoon.